Welcome to this week's episode of the Prep Athletics Podcast. I'm proud to have joining us Shavar Bernier from Taft School. Shavar was a first-team All-Stater in New Hampshire when he was a high school senior, took a gap year, which is a pretty interesting story, which we talk about, and then ended up going to Bridgton Academy to play for Coach Whitlajour. And then he went from there to Conn College, kicked butt there, coached in college for a year, spent time at Frederick Gunn, and now has been at Taft for a while. So we talk about his coaching philosophy, how he places kids in college, which I think is very fascinating, development and what he specifically does, Taft as a school. And then we also talk about, time in the gym. Does it matter what class you are? Do you have to play other sports at Taft? All stuff that parents are asking me on a daily basis. So if you like what you hear, be sure to subscribe on all the podcasting platforms, especially subscribe on YouTube and to our newsletter on prepathletics.com so you stay up to date on everything we've got to offer. And thanks for tuning in. So Coach Shavar Bernier from Taft School here on the Prep Athletics Podcast. Enjoy. Welcome to the Prep Athletics Podcast. This is Cory Heights.
Some battles. I'm not sure if they got us. If they did, maybe.
So you will get better as a player during that year.
So it was kind of exciting. Like, oh yeah, somebody wants me.
Shavar, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cory. Appreciate it.
Yeah, good to see you again. And you grew up in New Hampshire. And you're a pretty good baller, first team All-State, multiple year team captain, and then you chose to do a post-grad year at Bridgton Academy. Tell me where you first learned about post-grad and why you chose Bridgton.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting story. I'm definitely a New Englander. I lived in Massachusetts for some time, Fitchburg, Lowell, Leominster. I moved to New Hampshire sort of on and off, and then in high school, I went to Dover High. I played for a guy named Mike Romps, who was my first, I would say, real coach. And there was a gentleman who worked at this school named Cory, actually, who went to Bridgton. He knew Whit, and we sort of made a connection. And after I was maybe a little bit of a knucklehead my senior year, trying to figure out if I was going to play football or basketball in college, Bridgton kind of popped up. I actually went to Bridgton after a year off. I graduated high school at 17. So I worked for a year at the YMCA. I did some construction to help sort of make my way to Bridgton, pay my way at Bridgton. So Whit and those guys were great. I was actually supposed to play football there, but Whit, being the amazing guy that he is and is honest, is like, you're not good enough to miss all fall and play football and be part of the basketball team. So that's when my football career ended, when I realized I wasn't good enough to play AAA hoops or, play at Bridgton. Without being part of it in the fall.
Yeah. Walk me through that year you took off, though, because this is something that you don't hear every day. Like, what led you to do this? I know you graduated young, but why not just go to Bridgton right after graduation?
Yeah, well, I honestly, I got in some trouble. We got in some trouble. Yeah, I was a little bit of a knucklehead and sort of I had some college basketball options and some football options, and they kind of got pulled away. I think I'm comfortable talking about it now. You hear that you're talking to coaches that have been recruiting you, and they're, we're going to go in a different direction, right? And you didn't change as a player, right? And I don't think you changed as a person. You maybe took a wrong step, and all that kind of went away. So in some sense, I was maybe forced to take the year off, and I still had college options, but for whatever reason, I felt like they weren't right. They just weren't the right fit. And Bridgton was perfect for me, what I needed at the time. Slogan is the year that makes a difference. And this is, while I'm certainly at Taft, I will sing Bridgton's praises, for the rest of my life, the year that makes a difference. And it certainly was for me, with the options, some of those high-end academic schools that came out of it. People like Whit and Fletcher Carr was my college counselor. And there's a lot of special people in the Bridgton circle that have sort of stayed connected throughout the years. And they actually just came down and scrimmaged our lacrosse team because another gentleman at Taft is a Bridgton alum. So they were on campus not too long ago. So special year for sure. I matured, right? I learned how to be a student. You learn how to take yourself seriously. And then you can see, I think, the postgraduate year, Cory, you can see the end a little bit more clearly. I think there's still that euphoria when you're a junior or senior in high school. I'm going to average 30 points a game, and maybe you did, and I'm going to get an offer and go play at BC. And, all those things kind of don't work out. And, you go to Bridgton and the captain is Keaton Grant, who's going to Purdue and playing with Robbie Hummel. And you're like, oh, I'm not like those guys. You're playing against Jerome Dyson and Will Harris and at Syracuse and all these guys. You're like, yeah, we're a little bit different. So it does allow you to, I think, see it in the future a little bit more clearly, and maybe take some of those academic options just in case you don't get to have a 10-year pro career.
Oh, I get it. That year before Bridgton, I know you're sitting at the YMCA, you're working construction. What were you think? Like, what's one big takeaway that you gained from that year? Because we always talk about the takeaways you get from a post-grad year that you and I both experienced. But during this unique year you had off to think, right, and get your act together, what's a big thing that is there a realization that came to you, or did the light go off?
Yeah, right. Like that gap year, right? I think people call it a gap year now. When I was going through it, I don't think we call it a gap year per se. No, I mean, honestly, I'm from I would say really, really sort of modest beginnings. Nobody in my family ever went to college. Single parent. My mom was incarcerated for much of my childhood. So that move around, my grandmother lived in New Hampshire, so that was sort of the final move there. Um, no, it's just honestly a lot of thinking.
Yeah.
I'd always thought I was a really hard worker. I'd always thought that I'd love sports and was as competitive as it gets. And then you think like, so what do you want? What do you want those attributes, those qualities to lead to? And I think you're both humbled. I was both humbled and sort of shell shocked to think about what that looks like. When sport is taken away or ripped away, or we're going in a different direction. So what does that mean? And then for me, it was, all right, let's bring into the picture the 40-year plan, right? For the first time, maybe ever.
Right.
That's probably the biggest realization. 19, you're able to see, 18 going on 19, you're able to see again, sort of down the path of, in the future that, again, senior year, you don't. You're all league, all state, 1,000 you're feeling great. Coaches are calling you and talking to you. You're kind of in the moment, kind of eating that up. So yeah, just that perspective, I think, was the most important thing. And then the next thing I would say is that even after maybe a misstep, people still believed in you.
Well, that's
Right?
great.
And that was Wit, right? That was Andrew, Cory, like guys who, yeah, you're a good dude. Like come here, work as hard as you can, and let's see what happens. Kind of put your head down and do that. And then it leads on to being recruited by Bates and College, and still being in contact with my college coaches and my college teammates, and them being in my wedding party. All the things that it leads to, you kind of look back, and as I said earlier, you're not ashamed of any of it, because it sort of leads you to a good story, right, in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now when you are around kids that might make a mistake, you now know what they're going through. Right. So that actually might have given you a great perspective to help you with the young men and ladies you're mentoring these days. And kids at prep school, kids in life are going to make mistakes that they don't mean. Hell, their prefrontal cortex is not even fully formed yet. So they can't even help it half the time. So I
Yeah.
think that puts you in a unique position now to have real good compassion and understanding to kids going through the same thing you might have gone through.
Yeah, right. I'm on the disciplinary committee. So,
Yeah.
that stuff happens, right? A kid had a beer in a dorm, and you're like, oh, well, maybe I've been there. Then
Yeah.
you're trying to have some empathy with the situation, with the students. You definitely have a different understanding. But though in the moment, and this is maybe what resonated most or resonates most now, is it does feel like the end of the world. Like it really does. Like it really does. You got to get asked to leave Taft for a period of time, and you feel like you made the biggest mistake, and you really have up to that point in your life. But it's nice to be on the back end, and I can tell them after they leave the disciplinary meeting, like, it's going to be okay, right? You've done so many positive things, and it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I haven't shared this, but I almost got kicked out of my post-grad year. And, I had to go to a military review committee, and I was terrified. And my head coach was actually in charge of it. So I was like, well, this is going to be okay. And then he laid into me harder than anybody else. And I didn't know that was coming. And, I was in tears, and, I read the riot act and was allowed to stick around. But he tried to be cool with me at practice a couple hours later. And I was like, oh, no, it's going to take a few days for me to forgive you for that one, because you didn't even give me a heads up of what
Right.
was coming. yeah, it does feel like the world's ending, but yeah, you get stronger and tougher out of that too. You chose Connecticut College, and I knew you had other people reaching out to you. Why'd you pick Connecticut College? Like, what was your reasoning for choosing that school?
Yeah, no, I remember it like it was yesterday, right? There's Bates, Con College, Shaw University, Division two, one other Division two. Coach Lejeune walks in to my office. And again, I was fortunate, I did okay in school at Bridgton. I did pretty well. I somehow won an academic award. I did well enough up there. He puts the piece of paper on my desk. You're accepted to Connecticut College. You have to pay like $1,200. He's like, this looks like a scholarship to me. And it's a fine institution. It's like, all right, what should we do?
That was it.
This is where you're going. And Fletcher Carr, who was my college counselor, he's now working at schools in Florida, was like, yeah, that's right. Given all that I know about you, like that's what you should do. And I think times might have changed, but I was raised like you trust the adults who are in positions to do, who are trying to do well. Like I trust those guys. I still trust those guys. I think sometimes as I'm going through this process, maybe recruiting or talking to young people, it's there's a little bit different sense of authority maybe. But if they told me to go run through a wall, yep, I got you, coach. I got you, college counselor. I believed you. And obviously I'm on the heels of making some mistakes, so maybe I didn't have a ton of options to go to, but yeah, that was right. Mr. Carr, Coach Lejeune, I'm going to Con. And they recruited me hard, and I went on my visit in the spring. It was May, and we went to the beach and I connected with the players. Yeah, it was a pretty nice place, and not easy, but
No.
also really worth it. The academic piece was new to me for sure. The standard, all of it. It was, I sort of shed my sort of limited perspective that I had being a poor New England kid, right? Yeah, it's awesome. Drive myself, I had a Dodge Neon at the time, drive my car to Connecticut College in New London. And then, you show up in early August, it's sunny and there's families and, here I was just in sweats and like a tank top by myself. You show up to this NESCAC school and it was awesome. It was awesome. I loved every bit of it. And my college coach is somebody that I'm indebted to forever, like forever. My wife played tennis at Con. We have 2 little kiddos now. Like she's a doc. Like it's, without those sort of steps, I'm not sort of near where I am today. So really thankful for those people along the way.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for sharing that. And then, so once you finished up at Con College, you went to coach at St. Michael's in Vermont. And tell me what you took away from that coaching experience that you use now on your
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. I if it wasn't for the family part, the sort of connectivity, the cohesiveness of a family that is sort of burning inside of me, I think I'd still be coaching college. Maybe I will try to go coach college. I loved how all encompassing, how passionate, like everyone was all the time about basketball. And I think that's the main thing that I use now. It's harder to do, given that, we have interviews. I had an admissions meeting earlier where, there's a lot of other things that we're doing, and you see it in the tournament, you see it in, Division 1, Division 2, Division 3, and there's just the passion for the game that says, I'm going to get to the office at 6:30 or 7, and I'm going to stay there. And, we're going to go through every detail of my individual workout. We're going to go over the practice plan. We're going to have a post-practice meeting, right? We're going to get in the weight room. We're going to make our West Coast recruiting calls at 11 at night. We're going to get up with this energy and do it again. And it's like, you never, ever, 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 ever got sick of basketball. And I think what the game has meant for me in my life, I certainly don't ever, 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 ever get sick of basketball. And then I think when you're coaching in college, you have to be that way, right? I'm not saying we don't have balance, we don't get to take breaks, but you're never like, I want to do something else, or I don't really feel like finding that extra wrinkle, against their ball screen, right? It's like you're always doing it every second. Like I'm recording my TV, like, last weekend, like just rewind a YouTube TV, like look at this St. John's baseline out of bounds set, and then like 10 minutes later they run it again and there's a different wrinkle. Record it. It was the best. It is the best. Or that's the way that I feel. And that's the way that I felt on St. Mike's and Nick Leonardelli, Mike Harding, Josh Meyer. There was just an energy for basketball. And the players, it's, you work your whole life, right? The kids do to get there. And they're there. And so it was, yeah, I will not lose sight of that. I think when I do, I'll stop coaching.
Mhm.
I think we owe it to our players to be as excited and as enthusiastic as possible every single day.
Yeah, love it. From St. Michael's, you took a prep school job at the Gunnery, which has now been renamed or back to being named Frederick Gunn. And why did you want to go to the prep school world?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Josh Meyer, who I'd known from Connecticut College, he was sort of connected there, coach there. We would talk about all of the things, life and basketball, and you spend a lot of time with the assistants as you're an assistant coach. And I'd mentioned coaching at a prep school would be awesome, and maybe it was, seeing how cool I thought Witt's life was up there.
Yep.
I couldn't do it in Bridgton, Maine, but I'd mentioned that, and he knew the athletic director at Fred Gunn, and he just floated it by me in conjunction with my wife having to do sort of part of her residency at Yale New Haven. She had to work in the ICU there for a little bit, and it made sense. And again, growing up sort of just a disjointed family, thinking about wanting to be around and to be present as a dad. Maybe without losing the basketball piece, and not saying all college coaches aren't present. We were on the road at St. Mike's for 40 days, right, in a row. Like it's just really hard to be able to drive your kid to school every single morning. And all winter he gets home from school at 3:30 and he comes running into the gym and we're practicing. Like you can't beat it, right? Like I can't beat it. So really it was just the being able to keep basketball close to my heart while being able to fulfill the role that I seen as a family man. I felt like that was really hard to do at the collegiate level. Some obviously get it right and can do it, but it would have taken a long time, I think, to maybe get to that place. And I think some might never get to that place where they're fully able to be present with their family and wife and kids.
Right. And then from Gunnery / Frederick Gunn, you moved over to Taft, where you are now, and you've been there for quite a while. Give us your pitch on Taft as a school and Taft as a basketball program.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say first, and again, maybe this is just going back to Bridgton. These prep schools in New England are phenomenal. They're spectacular. Obviously, there's a ranking, and we're part of the TSAO and sort of all of the things that we'll sell in 2 days to revisit day. But there are no bad schools. Again, as a public school person and traveling around, like it's not 30 kids in a class. It's not limited resources. It's in fact the opposite. 7, 8, 9, 10 kids in a class. Teachers who live on campus, who care deeply. They know your name. They know where you're from. They understand your weaknesses as a student, your strengths as a student, and beyond. I think the intimacy with which can function a school of 600 main building is home to the actual dorms. So above my office is the second, third, and fourth floor. The main hall has all the admissions offices, the head of school's office, the dean of students' office, and your classrooms, right? Sort of branching off of it, the dining hall, and our main auditorium. I will see my players multiple times a day, all year long, for better or worse, right? We win a playoff game. It's fantastic. We lose a game at the buzzer. Here we are walking to assembly together, walking to the dining hall together. I do think that is unique for sure. There are no roads going through campus. There's not sort of multiple buildings of where you can be during the day. It feels like we would say is we have large school resources, right? Obviously we're sort of robust in the resource department with a small school feel. Like that's what Taft is. And we go visit some of these other schools, and again, they feel like a college in some ways, right? And that's awesome. Taft does not feel like a college. It feels like a prep school. It feels like a place where you're going to be forced to get to know everybody, and you're going to be forced to connect in ways that I think a school of 1,200 or 1,000, you might be able to hide. Or here's the music area of campus and the music building. And then over here, here's the senior hangout, right? Like that stuff doesn't even exist on campus. It's pretty neat. It's fascinating how it sort of works itself out. I was drawn to it because of that, because of the community. I would also add because of our proximity to Waterbury, right? My wife works in hospitals. Taft has a long tradition of community service with Waterbury. We have students, Shamir Johnson, played at Stonehills, Waterbury guy, Connor Prince, Waterbury guy, Xavier Rucker, Waterbury guy. Those guys are some of my favorite players, captains and some of the best students at Taft, and they're coming from the town over. It's nice to have that right in your backyard, to kind of get off campus and outside of the bubble. For me, that was important. Post gunnery, at the time gunnery, I was offered 2 positions, sort of poached from 2 schools, and for me, it was a no-brainer. I was coming to this school. And it's funny that we get to play that school a couple times a year. And every time we drive up there, I'm like, yeah, this isn't me, which is awesome. And I think that's the benefit about having so many options in a small area of New England, right? There's something that is right for each person, each student, each athlete.
Yeah. And tell us about your program.
Taft is, our basketball program is, I would say, first and foremost, one of sort of like hard work, grit, and love. It's like, and it's fun. I'm glad we can sort of discuss this. Taft is a beautiful place. We have, again, some of the cosmetically, some of the best views you can ask for. Our film room is in like the basement, and they've asked for upgrades. I'm like, I want this furniture. It looks like it's here from like the 80s and 90s. We're going to get up at 6 a.m. We are not going to get the new basketballs until the season starts. We're going to use these old sort of the worn out basketballs. We will not wear our game uniforms until the first game. You won't look at them, right? This sort of idea of like self-created, sort of wanted grit, I think is necessary at these places, because our athletes are competing with kids from all over the world. So I think sometimes at these schools, it's easy to get comfortable. And it's like, no, the kid that you're fighting with for that scholarship is, is a really tough kid, a gritty kid who doesn't have a 5-star dining hall, and it doesn't have a gym in their backyard. They're gonna take the bus or have to hop in with their friend and drive however long to get to a gym, or they're taking the bus to school. And you hear all the stories, right, of kids who are on the train for however long. Like, we need to understand that our competition is not just the normal Taft student in basketball, right? In basketball. So that's where sort of that grit and that hard work mentality. If you don't want to get up early, you cannot come to Taft and be a basketball player. You just can't, because we're going to have 6:30 a.m. workouts, and you're going to have to get up and walk up the hill, and that's just, again, maybe that's the Bridgton where we were doing that, it was, and that's just part of it. And then kind of how we talked about earlier, and you got to love it. Like, you got to really love it. And what I mean, Cory, is if you love it, you're going to do your homework during study hall. You're going to be focused during the academic day. You're not going to go to your room and, mess around for an hour and a half. Because I love basketball and I want to get to the gym early. I'm going to go to the library during my free period and make sure that I can get to the gym early. Like, to me, that is love. Like, what are you doing outside of basketball, right, in the way of sort of your process with your academics to make sure that I get to do the thing that I love the most, right? And those I think, right, at least Tufts is hard. It's a hard school academically. You're gonna have 2 hours of homework a night, so maybe you do a little bit of that during the day, and then after practice, or in the fall, you're gonna go back to the gym. Our captain this year, Ford, he's fantastic. He has a Division II offer, has some NESCAC stuff. He's in the gym at 6:30 every day, whether we have something or not. He'll practice. We'll practice in the afternoon. In the fall, we have a full-time strength and conditioning coach, which is amazing. Again, amazing resource. He'll do the lift. He'll do our skill workout. He'll go eat. And then 3 to 5 times a week, he'll come back up from 6:45 to 7:45. And he's like, and I'm on dorm duty. So I'm in his dorm. I see him running down. It's, 7:59. I'm doing check-in. Here comes Ford, from the gym. Like, those are the kids we want. Like, take advantage of the resources, do everything I can so that I can play basketball. I can push my skill and my body as much as I can, because I am organized and understand sort of the opportunity that I have.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting up early for practice. Every single college program in America does that, right? So that's the norm now. See, what you're doing is prepping them for what it's going to eventually be in college anyway. So if they have a problem doing that, might not want to look at playing college ball,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's the best compliment that we can get, that I can get, right? Like, you know, Jordan Elliott is a freshman and he's playing, getting in games at Bentley. Tyler Arbuckle is at St. A's, getting in games as a freshman. Like, it's guys who are prepared to play at the next level is
Mhm.
inevitably our job as secondary school educators and coaches. Prepare them for the next step, just like a teacher does in a classroom. Um, that is like, whether, winning is really, really close. But making sure the kids that we put into the workforce or the college basketball workforce, right, they're prepared to take on whatever it is that their coach is going to ask. And you love those callbacks. Oh, we love this kid. Do you got any more for us? Right.
Right.
But that's like really the best thing, where you feel like, okay, we're doing a pretty decent job here. Our kids go off to college and coaches say they're practice ready, they're game ready, they like the weight room, they understand scouts, right? And they're okay having to work their way up, right? They don't want things given to them. They're low maintenance, right? Like, all those qualities, I think, embody what we're trying to do here as a basketball program.
Yeah, Shavar, I've said that. Everything you said makes perfect sense. I've said before, like if I'm a D1 assistant now, all I do is have all the prep school coaches on speed dial and just say, Shavar, do you got a guy that can fit my program? And with your integrity and all the other prep school coaches' integrity, you're not going to BS me. You're not going to send me a guy you don't think could succeed at my program. But if you do have a guy you think that could work at my level in my program, you're going to tell me. Right. And why wouldn't I recruit that guy? So to me, like if I'm a college coach, I'm not messing with the transfer portal. I'm not messing with JUCOs, international. I am just personally trying to find good, tough nosed prep school kids. Yeah, that might not have all the stars next to their name, but they're going to do everything you just mentioned. That's going to make my job easier. Right. And more successful as a college coach. So thanks for sharing all that, because I think that's pretty obvious. But I don't know. You got to work harder these days to place kids with the portal. So
Yeah, no, I got off. We had a Division I coach call today. We're taking 4 transfers and we're not recruiting high school kids. And again, that's fine.
yeah, I
That's
get
part
it.
of the game. It's part of the game. But I would say to the high school kid, then, all right, you need to think about competing against not just the other high school kid, the 21-year-old transfer.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a film guy. They're taking the transfer because of their body and their preparedness for the game. That's what, so are we preparing? Do we have sort of the experience through hours spent watching film? Do you get to practice 45 minutes early to sort of make up for some of that stuff? It's really tough right now being a high school kid. You feel for them, but also you're not going to run from that, or I'm not anyway. I'm not going to run from it. Who knows what the world's going to look like in 15 years? That's the task at hand. You just kind of got to roll with it.
Yeah, anything worthwhile in life is not easy. Heck, your wife being a doctor, I mean, think of the amount of time she spent in school and in residency and being up 72 hours. Like, good things that mean something don't come easy. And look, kids are going to find out at prep school with the grind they got to go through if they want to play college ball or not. And about every year, I've got 1 or 2 kids that'll go to a prep school for a post grad year. They'll see the grind and they say, you know what? I think I like basketball. I don't think I love it. I think I'm going to choose a college and just be a student and play intramurals. And to me, that's a success story for prep school too, because now they're picking a college they want to go to for themselves versus maybe the only few options they might have that come via basketball. Right. So all the stuff you're mentioning,
Do
I
you
think
think you
spot
could
on.
tell that? Do you think you can tell that the type of kid, right, is maybe it's asking a question about recruiting for you in some sense? Can you tell? Can you sniff that out, right? Because we all inevitably we have kids in our programs who aren't really recruited and they're kind of in or out, or they're unsure, right? And they're going to get into school because they're fantastic students. And I always, that's the conversation we have as my coach, my assistant coach, and I every year. Like, what is this kid really about it? And I'm curious if you can sort of sense that, or have found any trends with that kid every year.
Yeah, usually you can get inklings from the parents, right? And the statement might be, he's just not sure what he wants right now, or she does not sure what she wants, right? So I say, cool, do a post-grad year. You're going to get all these other benefits on top of basketball, right? That you and I know about, that we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast. And he'll know. And at the end of the day, he'll go through that year. And if he decides not to play college basketball, he won't be sitting there in his middle age wondering, what if? But now, this is insurance against a midlife crisis, because he'll say, okay, I did go to prep school. I realized basketball wasn't my dream. I went to this school, and then my life went this direction. I do. Like right now, I'm dealing with a situation where a kid has a knapsack school that he likes, but he's waiting to hear from a college, right? And if he gets his dream school, let's just call it Notre Dame for this conversation, he's got to make a decision. Does he go to this knapsack school to try to play college ball, or does he go to a school, Notre Dame, which he's loved his whole life and his family's grown up loving? If you're having that debate, that tells me you don't love the game of basketball as much as other kids, right? Because to me, you would just be like, nah, I know Notre Dame's there, but my love is college basketball. I'm going to do that and go to prep school and see whatever level it is. I'm going to be happy and do it because I love the game. So that's another telltale is, did I get in this college or not? A couple of years ago, I also had a kid that had USC, his dream school, and then a NEPSAC AA school, and they kept trying to defer USC, and USC would not defer him. So once again, a kid's dream school his whole life, where both his parents went, where they met, or going to a NEPSAC AA school where you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. He chose USC, which is fine. Kids got to make their own decisions. I care less what they do. It's their lives. They need to make it. I want them to be happy with their decision. But go to USC, play intramurals, heck, try to walk on and go to your dream school. So that to me, Shavar, is the telltale sign, is if they've got a dream school and they're waiting to see if they get in or not, kind of tells me my answer right there.
Yeah. No, it's thank you for the answer. It's I think coaches, like, we have the blinders on sometimes, right? It's like you're trying to win a kid. They might be good enough. They might be able to help you come off the bench, all the things. So sometimes you miss that. But I'm with you. And then, personally, it was I was playing pro basketball forever, like, in my head. I got hurt in August, and then it was like, I already tried to have an internship with Merrill Lynch when I was at Con. It just wasn't for me. I was playing basketball. I broke my foot, and I was just this poor 23-year-old with a NESCAC degree. It's like, all right, so what am I going to do? And you just,
right.
If I'm not playing basketball, I guess I'm coaching basketball, because that's the only thing that is sort of lights you up, right? But no, I'm with you. I knew. I spent 2 weeks it was a basketball alum. I spent 2 weeks in the office at Merrill. It's like, Dwayne, like, I'm not doing it. It's just not. It's just, for me, it wasn't right. It just wasn't right. Like, I'm a basketball guy, and I think to be at Taft in our program, like, you got to be a basketball guy. Like, you got to be excited about all of the things, the conference tournaments, the March Madness, the random West Coast games on late, NBA playoffs, all the things. You just got to want to think about it and kind of be about it. It's good. It's okay, right? It's complex enough, and then you take care of business in the classroom.
Yep.
But you gotta love hoops. You gotta love it.
Yeah, but Shavar, there's those kids too that show up on campus first day in August, and they think, I'm going to come here and I'm going to get my D1 scholarship and use this as a stepping stone. In the first open gym, they realize, oh shoot, this D3 player is smoking me right now, right? And I'm not even, I haven't played against a D2 or D1 kid yet. So I think it really helps with that too, right? And I tell families all the time, like, look, there's no crystal ball. Like, look, we're always talking about the right fit for prep school. You help a lot of families with the right fit for college, right? Because you're doing a lot of placement on your end, but you are never going to have all the information you need, right? So if you think you like basketball, or not sure, like, what's this year going to do for you, or what level you're going to play at the end of it, we don't know. There's no crystal ball for life, which is exciting. But if you knew what was going to be the outcome too, it kind of would take away the fun, right? But guess what? This is prepping you for business decisions. Like, you were at Merrill Lynch, right, for 2 weeks, and that was a fork in the road you make by deciding to leave after 2 weeks versus staying there, right? This prep school choice, whether you do it or not, and what prep school you pick, is a different fork in the road that your life is going to take, right? And you'll never have all the information, whether it's life decisions, whether it's prep school decisions, whether it's relationships. Heck, 50% of the U.S. gets divorced, right? So half the country is shooting pretty bad free throw percentage. So it's prepping you for life as well, not just basketball, right? So that's what I love about prep school. When I talk to families, it's always starting on basketball. But you just mentioned the education, the time management, the friends you're going to make, the tough times you're going to go through. Like, to me, it's all that stuff as well, to where if you don't play basketball after college, you still get all the benefits that a prep school can provide, right? Worst case scenario, you get all those benefits, right?
Mhm.
Best case scenario, you get those benefits and you realize your basketball dream.
Yeah, no, I think part of it when I sort of think about, again, me in the high school lens, just being around 600 driven, focused, motivated peers is a game changer.
Yeah.
I'm biased about these institutions, but I've seen it over my 14 years in prep school. You can pluck a kid from almost anywhere and put him at one of these places for 4 years, and the product after is so different.
Oh, yeah.
It's just so different. And then, and the kids know it, right? The students, oh my goodness, like if I did homework for 2 hours a night for 4 years because I love hoops, I'd probably still be talking to you right now. But but there'd be a lot of different options, I think, just by being around and in this type of environment where you see excellence at Taft around every corner, the essay winner, the violinist, the actor,
Right.
the math team. Like it's just unbelievable to see. You're inspired as a student, as a young person. And it honestly, I think, makes you work harder in your craft. We actually had a conversation last week when I was on dorm duty. Who are the hardest workers at Taft? And
Interesting.
it wasn't athletes. Like they named people who weren't athletes, as a couple of them. We have some sort of national team soccer players, and it's like, yeah, they're in the gym, like they're doing everything. And then, you have this artist, you have this person going to Juilliard. Like that is awesome to be around as a young person.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
inspiring, I think. And I hope our players take a lot of that throughout their experience, as well as some of the basketball piece. But you're right. I think the longevity is going to be just what these schools offer, maybe outside of your discipline.
Yeah. Love it. Let me ask you this question. Do you have to play multiple sports if you come to Taft?
No, you have to have, great question. I hope this is like the soundbite, right? I think it's a differentiator. You have to have an afternoon activity at Taft. So our varsity basketball players come in the fall. They are with Will Turner, who's a former Division I strength coach at Yale and BU. They're with him 4 times a week. That is their afternoon activity. And then we shape our fall workouts around that. So that's where the morning comes in. That's where we're playing in the afternoons for college coaches. That's where we're doing sort of small group work, like all fall. And their afternoon activity is strength and conditioning. Obviously in the winter, it is basketball. In the spring, many of them do yoga. Some do like theater tech. Some do tour guiding. You have to have an afternoon activity. At no time can you finish class at Taft and then just go to your room and hang out.
All right. Let's go through that.
Definitely
Thank
not
you
a
for sharing.
sport. Definitely not a
Thank-
sport.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. And because here's the question, I'm going to go through some quick questions.
Yeah, let's do
Every
it.
family askers is one, how many college coaches come in the gym per year on average?
50 probably per year.
Okay.
Like it's probably around 50,
All right. Here's a question I've got. A family I'm talking to right now is between 2 schools, and one school has about 200 college coaches come through per year, and one has about 50. Does that matter at the end of the day?
Not for that individual kid, I don't think. I loved it. Again, going back to Bridgton, like amazing stories, like Bruce Pearl's eating lunch in our dining hall. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. I was never going to Auburn or, at the time, Tennessee. Like, it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter for me. So, and here's the other thing I would say to that. And I've used this too, maybe because I'm recruiting against some of those top schools. If you trade my roster with, I don't know, prolific prep, the coaches who come to the gym are going to change. It's really about the students, right? Like college coaches work so hard. They know who the players are. It's a different time. How many hidden gem 4-stars are there just floating around because college coaches missed them, right? It's so different now. Like our league is sort of hyper recruited, I would say. If you're a NESCAC kid at a AAA school, you're going to go to the NESCAC, whether you go to AAA, AA, or single A, or B, C, or D. Like that's, you're not getting buoyed because you went to a certain school. And the coaches get fired if they get it wrong.
Yeah.
And it's funny being a college coach. You're not, because Shavar Bernier tells you to take a kid, you're not taking a kid if he's not going to help you.
Right.
Like I've never had that. Hey, yeah, I don't think he's really good enough, Shavar, but we're going to take him anyway because I like you.
Right. Right.
It doesn't happen. Are you good enough or are you not? Because that coach has to move his family. These are things you already know. They get fired. They displace their entire existence. They're not taking a kid because of Taft or Deerfield or Exeter or Bridgton or Brewster. They're taking a kid because they're good enough. That's like as real as I can be. And that's just true.
And that's kind of my next question is other families ask me, does it matter if you play in AAA, AA, single A, independent, B, C? I know my answer. What's your answer on that? Especially being a single A school.
No, stuff I think about all the time, and it's cool. We're talking. Maybe you're getting to know me a little bit more, but I don't think there's a black or white answer. Here's what I tell the families: you have to decide if, and again, this is for the kid who's maybe like scholarship D2 Bentley, like not if you're gonna go to the ACC, like it just doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't matter. But for the majority of the kids who might need a prep year and who are good enough to come off the bench at AAA, let's say maybe fight for a starting spot, right? So do you think you will improve after 9 months if you came to Taft, had plays drawn up for you, were thrown in a leadership role, had the ball in your hands late in games? When we were breaking down film, you were maybe highlighted, right? Instead of the kids going to Miami, because we really don't have kids going to Miami at Taft. Or do you improve more after 9 months by being in practice and like playing against higher competition? But in the game, you're not in those moments with that experience of that sort of game pressure. Like, and I don't know the answer. I think it's different for every person, to be honest. But I think those two things are what people are really asking. Because if you're not the high-level recruit and going to be the guy at a AAA school, it's a different experience, right? Like, I think who's Ryder Frost, awesome, amazing kid, going to Notre Dame. Like, if he were maybe like the fifth option at, the highest level school, after 3 years, is he the same as being able to take some of the pressure shots and the things like you don't know? Like that's the question you have to ask. Like, do you want to be put in those situations where I'm looking you in the eye, it's a heated moment, it's a 1 possession game against Williston, and we're calling your number? Or it's like, hey, rebound the basketball if it comes off, and you're the guy who like might have to get a rebound tip in. Like, I don't know, but I do think it's fun to consider. And I think that's really what families are trying to get at. Like what does game experience mean versus playing against better players in practice and playing 15 or fewer minutes a game versus figuring out how many minutes I can play, 32, 34, or whatever, like, and going through a season I'm maybe a little bit dinged up because I'm playing so many minutes. Like, what prepares you better? I think it's really fun to think about and to walk through and talk through with families, because it's not as simple as like higher level is better or you're a starter on Class A and you're not on AAA.
Yeah, it's yeah. And mind you, I lived that. So I backed up an All-American for 3 years in high school, every day trying to score on him and trying to stop him. Was a nightmare. And then I got to my post-grad year and actually got to play more. And we had a kid there from Idaho that scored like 40 a game but never got challenged. And I really dominated him because he just had never been pushed. But I didn't have game experience too. So I was not as comfortable on the court. So there's pros and cons to each. And once again, I leave it up to families and be like, my big thing is you got to pick based on the coach, right? If you don't like the coach very much, but you're going to play more, or you really like a coach, you want to get in the foxhole with them, and you might play less but have better teammates. Like, once again, there's no crystal ball. You have to make the decision with the limited information you have, and don't look back. But Hargrave, I think it was 10 years ago, I sent my first kid to Hargrave. He was the last guy on the bench, and that was the year 12 of the 13 guys signed D1. So their practices were knife fights, right? Knife fights. You've got 7 guys on the bench, D1, that aren't starting. And my guy ended up going D2, starting for 2 years and bumped up to D1. So that was a team with 13 D1 guys on it, right? So did they get better in practice? You damn right they did. They also won a national championship that year, prep school, and they all went D1 and just contributed, a lot of them, right away. So, but my guy that was last on the bench, right, would he have been better served playing more? You don't know. It's unknowable. So we'll skip that. Let's move on to this development. That's another key thing parents talk about. This place, this head coach is going to develop us. They got this assistant coach that does this and that. You can be in the gym 5 hours a day. What do you say when families ask you, time in the gym and how you develop players?
Again, this goes back to what I said earlier.
Right.
Is I think our first and foremost duty as secondary school educators and coaches to develop young people. I think it should turn you off if a coach doesn't lead with that or a teacher doesn't lead with that. Like, that is what you're doing from the ages 14 to 18. If I have some different agenda, I think it misses the boat. Like, you have to develop your players and prepare them for the next level, first and foremost. Like, I think about that every day. I think about it every day. Taft's system allows for that to be pretty good. So the full-time strength coach, basketball players aren't playing football or JV soccer or whatever. They have a strength coach. Our team is together doing basketball-specific lifts and explosive lifts, and working on things, lateral movement, things that are basketball-specific to what we're doing. On top of that, we get to work out in the gym any other time that's not academic. So in the fall, it is in the morning, and it's usually like 5:30 or 6 p.m. post that workout. And it is, we can, I can talk basketball forever. The development, sure. It depends on our roster, meaning if we're guard heavy, our play style will be a little bit different, right? Our fall workouts and individual sessions will be a little bit different. Or we're not going to put a post player, working on like throwing skip passes as they're bringing the ball up the court, right? In general, like it will be player specific, obviously. And that's all fall, right? But that depends on the personnel, and that we have enough freedom to be able to do that, right? So we'll do small group work, it might be the bigs, or we call them forwards, the wings, and the guards, right? So they might have, you four in the morning, you four in the afternoon, right? You four the night, and then you're rotating, and you're getting 3 or 4 individual skill sessions, individual small group skill sessions a week. We're playing pickup twice a week. Our pickup is, we do play pickup in the general sense when the college coaches come, but generally our pickup is concept based. I'm finding more and more that high school level players are less sort of developed with their concepts of the game, maybe more skilled. I think that's not a me thing. That's just where the game is. They are less sort of developed with the understanding of the game, but more skilled. So we're going to put in maybe the framework, like we'll be in a classroom, put in the framework of what we're looking for with our motion reads, our secondary break, or how we're going to defend. If it's sort of man, we're going to be high hip, no middle, or we're going to switch stuff. We'll put in those sort of concepts in the classroom, and we'll want players to think about and play through them when they're playing pickup. And then when we do our sort of small games, they'll be designed through the concept. So it's not just like random. And also, like, I better be careful to say, like, some of our schools are different. We're not Bridgton, so we're not practicing in the
I know.
fall. We're
I'm not the NEPSAC rules committee here, so don't worry about that. But they might be listening. They might be listening. So,
but we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're getting prepared.
all right, last question here. Let's say I commit to Taft right now. I got my acceptance letter. I commit for a post-grad year. What's your placement strategy? Like, what do you do with your families? What do you do for outreach to coaches? Walk me through that, because everyone's coming to do a post-grad year to get placed at the next level. So walk me through your strategy.
Yeah. Again, one, I'm lucky and fortunate to be doing it for a long time. And again, to been on the other side, and, most of the people you have in your phone, most of the college coaches, you can text pretty much anybody on any staff or shoot an email and you're going to get a reply, but it starts now. It is already we had a post-grad commit earlier. Like, it's already started. Here's what I see. I already watched full game film. Obviously, you're breaking down who they are and sort of the level, and then you're communicating with the family what their needs are. So as soon as you commit to Taft, we're on Zoom and we're going through, all right, here's what I see. All right. And then there are the 3 buckets that I'm going to start with, right, are sort of safety type schools, right? Like fit, like level schools, and then your reach schools. And again, for us, that tends to be like this kid's a no-brainer, NESCAC. They're going to love you. I've already texted, Amherst Williams Tufts that you're coming, and they're on you, right? Boom. There's your safety. All right. Bentley's pretty good, had a pretty good year. We've sent a bunch of players. That's sort of maybe the fit school. And then we all want to play in the Patriot League and Ivy League, right? So let's your reach school. I'm going to text Kinger over at Yale, and we're going to, see what they think, but we got to get better. We got to follow these steps in order to be a true recruit for that level, right? And that's sort of where we will start, and it starts now. Then you help them with AAU if they need it. If they don't, awesome. I don't have allegiance to any AAU program at all. Oh, and then they come back for the summer showcase. They're playing in front of 200 college coaches. And by then we will have already reached out 20 schools or so that are sort of in those three buckets, most of them sort of that fit level, and it's going. By the time they get to campus, I will have a good sense for a postgraduate, what level and where their interest is. And then they will see, given our roster, they'll be seen by the sort of reach schools, because we inevitably have Division I caliber dudes. So yeah, it's going, right? It's going. I coach JV golf in the spring, but you want to tell the administration, I'm also still coaching basketball.
Right.
But no, I get paid to coach golf, which is fascinating, and not complaining about it.
Well, thanks for sharing that placement strategy. I think that's valuable. A lot of this happens before kids even step foot on campus. And I'll tell you this, not every school can say that, right? So I think that's a good advantage you got there. We're going to end with some quick hitters, all right?
Yeah, let's do it.
Best player you ever played against?
Jerome Dyson.
Okay. Best player you've ever coached against at the prep school level?
Yeah, that's easy. Donovan.
Okay. Your favorite movie of all time?
He Got Game.
Yeah, Jesus Shuttleworth. I was just thinking about that last night. And
Blue Chips is another good one.
Can I tell you my Blue Chip story?
No.
So I went to high school with Michael Patino, Rick's oldest son, not Richard, the younger one, but the older one. And we went to see Blue Chips as a team, and he's in it in the background behind his dad as an extra. And we just gave him so much heck. Even though he was on the screen, that meant he got it worse with his teammates.
Incredible. That's incredible. Yeah, basketball movies, the basketball has to be good, right? They're pros in He Got Game. They're pros in Blue Chips. I'm not a basketball movie guy if the basketball is a little off. Right?
Like Above the Rim with Eric Neese out there playing.
Yeah. And the guy transports from one play to another play. It's another place. Yeah, the basketball's got to be good to be a good basketball movie.
I actually watched Love and Basketball. Gosh, it must have been a long time ago. And that's when players had number 91. And I wrote to IMDb, I was like, this is a goof, because college players can't have the number 91.
Right.
That's how dorky I was with the college basketball editing being so precise.
I love it.
Last question. What are your hobbies when you're not doing what you do?
Just being a dad. It's the best. It's the best thing ever. Growing up without one, for the first time. My son is 3. My daughter is 3 months. It's the coolest, the best, that teaches you the most. And I'm excited for it every day. It's it. It is. It's a kind of basketball and family. I'm lame. We play golf. I play golf. We have a golf course on campus. There's a Taft cell. We have an 18-hole golf course on campus the students get to use for free. Faculty are members for free. So I'm trying to learn how to play golf.
Awesome. Is there anything we didn't touch on today that you want to mention before we go?
No, this is great. I really appreciate you having me. I sing the praises of all these schools, the range of them. I think it's an important product that we have, and I hope we're, I know that a lot of us are doing a really good job. So just a shout out to all the other coaches and schools out there.
Yeah, well, Shavar, thanks for coming on the podcast today. Representing the Taft School. If you guys like this podcast, be sure to subscribe on all the major podcasting platforms. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest in the prep school basketball world, subscribe to our YouTube channel and go to prepathletics.com and sign up for our newsletter, which comes out once a month. Pleasure having you on, Shavar.
Thanks, Cory. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Take care.